Howdy, y'all. Today we're going to be discussing butanol as a biofuel. Now, for a little bit of background, butanol is a primary alcohol. It has basically the same chemical structure as methanol. However, the hydrogen in the methyl group is replaced with a hydroxy group in butanol. Butanol is commonly seen in the human digestive system where it's produced by several different microbes. Butanol is commonly sourced from a variety of different starch crops. Most of the time, these starch crops are grown for the express purpose of fermenting butanol. The starches are wet milled. After they're wet milled, they're sent to be fermented. After they're fermented, this liquid is distilled to recover the butanol from it. As I mentioned previously, butanol is commonly produced from starch crops. The main starch crop used for this is corn. Corn or other starch crops or cellulose crops can all be used to ferment butanol. The production of butanol is identical to that of ethanol because they are both made through a process known as acetone butanol ethanol, or ABE, as I will be referring to it from here on out. And this uses crops of the Clostridium species. And currently, there is research being done on something called aldol condensation. Aldol condensation is the preferred way of butanol synthesis because through a dehydration reaction, it actually yields more butanol than the usual ABE reaction, and it makes less byproducts. Butanol is a widely available biofuel. It's commonly used in the food industry, and due to its wide availability and use in the food industry, it is almost always in high demand. Currently, butanol is being researched because scientists are trying to find a way to more efficiently synthesize butanol, and part of the synthesis is to lower its byproduct formation. Currently, butanol has a pretty high byproduct formation because it also produces acetone, ethanol, and CO2. The carbon footprint of butanol is much smaller than that of ethanol. Butanol produces less greenhouse gases. However, its carbon footprint is still being researched. Butanol production using corn has no greenhouse gas change compared to that produced when ethanol synthesized. However, butanol production using sugarcane actually reduces greenhouse gas emissions when compared to ethanol. In addition, butanol has greater blend wall potential than ethanol. And basically, for a quick rundown of what the blend wall is, it's how much biofuel can be mixed into petroleum before vehicles have to be updated to use biofuel. Currently, butanol use in America is not very economically feasible. It would have a high operating cost and a high capital cost because there is not a readily available source to synthesize this butanol. It would require new technology and cheaper sources than the corn we currently have. However, butanol production has been seen to be economically feasible in countries like Malaysia due to their pre-existing production of palm oil. So they have extra biomass to use for butanol production. Butanol was the major fuel source before the introduction of petroleum. It was produced during World War I by the Soviet Union to fuel a lot of their equipment. And despite its replacement with petroleum, butanol is still publicly accepted as a better alternative to both petroleum and ethanol. However, its integration is halted due to the major cost factor involved. So just looking at butanol, butanol production definitely needs to be researched more and made more efficient. And I think that ethanol should slowly be replaced with butanol due to its smaller carbon footprint. And while the economy is transitioning to butanol production, outsourcing butanol from countries like Malaysia may be most economically effective. And for a bit of plan of action on how this would work, transitioning from the ABE reaction to aldol condensation would provide a higher output of butanol while also lowering costs. Using biomass waste for butanol production, similar to Malaysia, would also be helpful. And as I mentioned before, transitioning from ethanol to butanol is more ecologically effective. And outsourcing butanol until the US can cultivate its own would also be very helpful. And that's pretty much all on biofuel. Thanks, and go.